What does Alabama look like under Kalen DeBoer against what we just saw with Nick Saban? It's a good question. On Friday, January 12th, Alabama announced that they had reached an agreement with Washington head coach Kalen DeBoer, who had his 14-0 Washington Huskies playing in the national championship game just 4 nights prior to that. Now, I will admit, my initial reaction when people asked me about DeBoer as the potential coach at Alabama, I told them I was not sure how he would recruit in the SEC. I wasn't sure about the play on the line of scrimmage after watching, the Joe Moore award-winning offensive line just get smashed by Michigan's defensive line. But when it all comes down to it, he built a team to compete in the Pac-12, and his Washington teams handled business inside that conference. Now, do I think that DeBoer was Alabama's first choice? I think he was one of them. Coaching searches are not as simple as, hey, Dan Lanning, here's how much we're offering. Do you want the job? No. Okay, Sark? No. Okay, Mark Norvell? No. It doesn't go like that. You put your feelers out, you cast a wide net, and you see who's most intrigued by the opportunity. Then you go where you need to. Nick Saban retired at 4 p.m. on a Wednesday, and Alabama AD Greg Byrne was in Seattle, Washington, a few hours later discussing the job with DeBoer. It was as simple as that. Now, as far as what Alabama will look like under Kalen DeBoer, Alabama has always been known for defense. I think it says a lot about the new coach that he was willing to not just hire, the same full staff from Washington. He retained the defensive line coach, Freddie Roach. He hired Kane Womack from South Alabama. He was South Alabama's head coach. He's got Josh Chapman and HaHa Clinton-Dix on the road recruiting. He brought in Mo Lingust, former Buffalo head coach. He was hired as Buffalo's coach the same offseason that he was hired as Michigan's co-defensive coordinator after spending time with the Dallas Cowboys as their defensive backs coach. And he's got SEC experience coaching defensive backs, and we'll talk more about him. But he was at A&M under Jimbo and Mississippi State under Dan Mullen. Wisconsin D.C. Colin Hitchler joined the staff as well. As far as the scheme goes, Womack has always run a 4-2-5. And while Saban was always known for a 3-4 scheme, the defense in Tuscaloosa has always changed because the sport is constantly changing. Like, I know Womack is going to be aggressive. The linebackers, the safeties are going to be violent. They're going to get numbers. With this staff, to be honest, I don't expect a crazy defensive drop-off, right? We'll eventually talk on the show more about the transfer portal. But I do think that the numbers somewhat speak for themselves with this coach, right? He is 104-12 all-time as a head coach. He's 80-3 after his first 10 games at a job. He was 25-3 in 2 years at Washington, and that was taking over a team that went 4-8 the season before that. He was 2-1 against ranked teams at Fresno. He was 10-1 against ranked teams at Washington. The guy just knows how to win, and players want to play for winners. As far as losing players, because, the portal exodus, you couldn't avoid that, right? Alabama fans were in shambles on Twitter. But that's going to happen these days. There's a chance that Proctor, the offensive lineman, he was going to go back to Iowa regardless. A lot of people have heard a lot of rumors about what went on leading up to the Rose Bowl. Y'all know what's up with that. Caleb Downs had a chance at an all-time bag here. I don't blame him for taking it. Isaiah Bond, per his own remarks, he didn't trust the quarterback room in Alabama to get him big numbers in a year before next season's NFL draft. These are all easily explainable defections. But let's not pretend that there won't be players in the spring portal that want to play for Alabama. And there will be plenty. And the GM now at Alabama, Courtney Morgan, he is on top of all this. He's the guy that helped craft both the Michigan and Washington rosters that played for this past season's national championship. I think the most important thing that will determine DeBoer's success or failure is whether or not there's enough rational Alabama fans that can reset their expectations. The schedule is going to get more difficult. Stacking depth is not as easy with the transfer portal. And to be honest, SEC schools have spent a decade and a half attempting to catch up, to what the Tide have been doing. Chris and I used to say on the show all the time that it's not any program's birthright to win 10 games every year, and that certainly holds true for an Alabama program that was fair to average before hiring the greatest coach in the history of the sport. In the 17 seasons before Saban was hired, Alabama was 137, 71, and 1. That's a 65.87% winning percentage. Saban was over 87%. He had only 29 losses in 17 years, and 6 of those came in his first season. If the fans give DeBoer a chance and they don't expect Saban results, I think Kalen DeBoer can be incredibly successful with what's already been built in Tuscaloosa. Thanks for listening to Winning Cures Everything. Make sure and follow me on Twitter @GaryWCE. If you want to toss in a question, you can email me, Gary@winningcureseverything.com. Make sure and hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.